All right, guys. Well, it's an exciting week. Unfortunately, we're in the red today, but it's not just us. It's the whole world. It's equities. It's literally it seems to be across the board. So um, we'll get into it, and I think I'm quite optimistic. So hopefully, it won't be a depressing episode.
You don't sound too optimistic, Jordi, but
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm fine. I'm fine. All right. Let's get the intro. I'll get buzzed up. All right, everybody. Episode 54. Feels like bear market, but it's not bear market. Guys, we have Qiao back with us. Very excited to have him. He's been one of my favorite guests. He's super knowledgeable across the board, and we got a lot to get into. I think it's been a lot of highs, a lot of lows. We touched 70K off of the Trump convention. Now we're kind of revisiting the lows from earlier in the week, which I don't know about you guys. I have no clue where the seller came from because apart from today, which like today is like an awful macro day. Maybe like you can bring up Justin this tweet here showing how much the devastation is. 2.9 trillion wiped out. That is like multiple. How many entire Bitcoins is that? That's a lot of entire crypto. It's bigger than all of crypto. Worst day since 2020. Apple was up.
This is like some doomer stuff though, right? Because like a doomer headline, because the stock market is up so much since then. So I mean, it takes less of a drawdown to lose 3 trillion. But still, I mean, 3 trillion is still a lot.
Nasdaq is 10% off the highs, which is fairly significant in correction territory.
Yeah.
Do you follow stocks, Qiao, or?
I do.
Yeah.
I read every earnings report of AI companies.
Is that
you read it manually or through AI? You have AI.
I don't actually read word by word, but I follow every one of them. But you're right. Like today is macro driven, but last couple of weeks it has been AI stocks driven, like Nvidia, AMD, like even Intel yesterday. Right, like basically it's all the report surprises on both the upside and downside by the AI stocks.
It looked like Nvidia was trading like a shitcoin. I mean, it was like 13% up, down, biggest weeks ever, up 300 billion, down. I mean, crazy.
Yeah, it's just gaining and losing Ethereum market cap every single day. Pretty crazy.
The top was Kramer bull posting Nvidia.
Damn.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at our coins as well because so Bitcoin, okay, recovering a little bit from when I last checked. We're at 63.5 right now. Solana down 13% on the week, even though it was touching highs again for the year, right? It was at 190 or so, I remember. Quite a big pullback there. I want to get into maybe like some of that.
Yeah.
Generally,
3K. Yeah.
I mean, if we go further down, I think the numbers are even worse. Once we go past the majors. Okay, nothing too cataclysmic. Seeing Pepe back below the zeros. There's like an extra zero now.
Cosmos Hub is the one that's really been hit hard, though. I think it's all-time lows.
My atom is still staked.
Can you go to market cap instead of price? I just want to see if the chart is okay. It's more or less the same.
Yeah.
Because the emission is decently high. But guys, I was pretty bullish. Yeah, who do you blame this for? That's a good question. I have my guess.
The market makers. We learned that. True.
I can assure you, the market makers are not rich enough to dump this. And I've seen a lot of chatter about the Binance whale. There is a Binance whale that does 1,000 Bitcoin clips. So 60 million clips. He just places them, like limit order, 60 million. Bam, 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 1,000 Bitcoin. And during the sell-off, apparently he has bought more than 10,000 Bitcoin I think like 11, 12,000 Bitcoin, they're saying. And the bids were just getting spliced through like water. Like we're not like bouncing off the resistance of 1,000 Bitcoin, just like water. So it made me think like, who has that much fucking Bitcoin to do that? We did see like someone pointed out that the marshals have moved 2 billion of Bitcoin to Coinbase. Now that sounds like a lot, but 2 billion is only like 30,000 Bitcoin. So they would have needed to sell like half of their entire Bitcoin stash in like a couple days to do this, which seems unlikely, but I don't know what other source this could be. Any of you guys have a guess?
One thing I was following, which was sort of interesting, did you see someone alerted that CZ's Twitter account had followed a new person, and there's some speculation maybe CZ's released ahead of his release date, which I think is in late August or early September. I don't think he's the one we blame for this. I don't think he's responsible, but I do think it's an interesting catalyst to look for when CZ's released from jail. What happens?
Yeah, maybe it's all the leverage degens like buying Bitcoin ahead of the Trump speech. Qiao, you were at the Trump speech, right, in Bitcoin Nashville? Like, what was that like? Did you like any interesting takeaways?
It was a good event. It was pretty boomer. A lot like if you look at the speaker list, like the top 4 are Trump, RFK, Kathy Wood. Who's the last one?
Loomis?
The MicroStrategy guy, Michael
Saylor. Michael Saylor.
Yeah. So it's basically 2 Wall Street guys and 2 politicians. So like, that just shows you everything you need to know about how boomer it was. But like if you go around the venue, half of the booths were Bitcoin miners, and the other half were like a mix of things. But there's like very few app developers. There's a few layer 2s. There's Babylon. That's pretty much it. But yeah, I was in the close to the front row when Trump spoke. It was I mean, a lot of you probably saw the live stream as well. But it was he's hilarious. I think Trump should be a comedian instead of a politician.
I mean, he is a comedian essentially.
But did it play better than it was live? I mean, I know a lot of people were initially very disappointed by the speech. They just said it was boring. He was redundant. He dragged on. But there were like buried in that boredom, I guess, there were a ton of like really interesting points he highlighted. Not selling the government Bitcoin, exploring a strategic reserve, saying don't ever sell your coins, saying Bitcoin's, saying very bullish things. But in the live audience, did it play much better?
I think it was much better live than listening to the live stream.
Yeah,
and by the way,
the most interesting part was, sorry, go for it.
He never said the word reserve, if I recall correctly. He used the word stockpile. But everyone heard what they wanted to hear, which is the strategic reserve. Anyway,
I mean, that's not a big deal. The most important stuff really is that at the end of the day, he is pro crypto. He's said it unapologetically at this point. And sad thing, because the days after, Kamala starts to climb the polls, we have seen some chatter about predicted and the difference between predicted and Polymarket, because one is showing different results. We have this tweet, if you can bring up, Justin, showing the Betfair price as well. So it does look like on Betfair, at least Trump is still the favorite, at least as of a day ago. I have to feel like he's still a favorite. I don't really see that enough has changed. I think they're just starting to get into repositioning for the new enemy. Their new cartoon. They have to cartoonicize her, and Trump has kind of messed up the beginning of this. I think he needs to find his footing.
What do you guys think about?
It has a few more exchanges, so you can see the bias of each.
Oh, interesting.
So predicted is highly biased towards Harris, and Polymarket is biased towards Trump.
I think Polymarket really, I don't think predicted is really valuable here. I know you had a tweet about this we can talk about later, but predicted is so illiquid. The volumes are so low. All of the money really is on Polymarket. And I know you tweeted out earlier that Polymarket has a crypto bias, which maybe means favors Trump. But we talked a lot about this when we did a segment on Polymarket. Jordi's talked a lot about this too. That and I agree with it really. That even though Polymarket is built on crypto rails because it's at scale and large enough, there's too much of an arbitrage opportunity if it was skewing unnecessarily towards what crypto people favor. What do you think about that?
I do think when you compare the liquidity, so Polymarket is probably 1 or 2 orders of magnitude bigger than predicted. So relatively speaking, Polymarket has more value than predicted. But in the grand scheme of all financial markets, the volume on Polymarket is still very small. It's like $10 million a day. And to give you a comparison, Jupiter does $1 billion a day, like 2 orders of magnitude bigger than Polymarket. So like in the grand scheme of things, even the most liquid prediction markets, I don't know how much value they have. It's just a useful data point, but I don't think it's the ultimate source of truth. So you probably want to triangulate between the most liquid prediction markets and the polls if you want to arrive to a better conclusion.
And there was like a really cool market. It's super liquid, but it was basically Trump win Bitcoin and Kamala win Bitcoin, and there was like a $7,000 difference, I think, between the two outcomes. So that's an interesting future. So I guess like the future only gets active if that outcome happens. Otherwise, it's like it's a wash. And if it does happen, then you get to kind of predict the price, I guess, soon after. So that was pretty fascinating, and I think that sounds about right. Like $10,000 difference for Bitcoin between getting, Kamala, who's probably going to be not totally against. I hear her reaching out to different factions of the U.S. crypto scene. Maybe we'll put her at like a 5 out of 10 friendliness, like very average, and then a Trump who would be like a like a 9 or 10, because why not at this point? So that could be a little bit of a sell-off, but some people were telling me like, oh, the market's selling off. I'm getting some smart traders trying to figure out what's going on, and they're like, they think it's because Trump is going down in the polls. But if you think about the difference being $10,000 of Bitcoin, and the odds have only moved 10%, that should be like $1,000. It shouldn't be what we're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
Qiao, do you want to discuss the rationale behind this tweet here that the net impact of Trump winning is 7,000 per BTC?
Well, I mean, just objectively, according to this market. By the way, this is called the conditional market. So it's what Bitcoin would be priced at if Trump wins, and what Bitcoin would be priced at if Trump loses, right? And just the data just says if Trump wins compared to if Trump loses, then the Bitcoin will be priced at $7,000 higher. So that's just what the data says. Although I'm familiar with the startup that built this, it's a fairly illiquid market. So I don't think it's, again, like a very good source of truth, but it's an interesting data point.
Yeah, I think we're sort of underselling what Trump's impact could be on BTC and crypto broadly if he wins. I mean, it could end up being a nothing burger or something small, like $7,000 per BTC gain, or it really could usher in the next wave of crypto's success, in my opinion, if he really lives up to the hype and what he's been saying he's going to do.
Yeah,
and if Ryan Selkis gets a political appointment.
I mean, these are markets just, I guess, for like right after the election. They're not for like 2 years in, once policy has been enacted and the whole world changes their position. I mean, Justin, you and I were talking a little bit backstage, and you're the ETH maxi, so I don't want to like out you, but
everyone's even the ETH people are gonna hate me after you out me. First of all, everyone else already hates me.
We'll do a 3-minute. And I guess, I hate going back to ETH versus BTC, but we'll do a little quick, where are we now? How do we feel right now? There are some reasons for Bitcoin to potentially be a stronger performer, right now. My main reason is it feels to me like we're getting into a macro swing. The Fed is about to cut rates again. That's generally good for gold. Bitcoin is gold, that we hear that so many times. Then apart from the rate cuts, we're also looking at geopolitical tensions. There's a lot of Iran talk and going to war, and that will create factions. Bitcoin is shown historically to be a strong geopolitical asset, versus ETH is a bit more of a NASDAQ correlation. What say you, Justin?
Well, I want to caveat by requesting that the audience gives me like 2 minutes of grace. I need like immunity for the next couple of minutes here before I, upset the ETH people. And thank you, Amar, for oh, that's the wrong one. Thank you, Soft, for saying you want to see me euphoric with ETH mooning. But I've talked about my thesis a little bit a couple episodes ago, and I think it's really that ideas get hammering home. And we're going to talk about what builders are feeling, Qiao and Jordi, what you guys are experiencing from Talking Founders. But my thesis is less around like which is better, Sol or ETH, what chain do I want to be investing in? And it's more like, is there actual innovation and development happening on chain that's super exciting and compelling? And I think objectively, you would have to say the answer is no right now. Most of what we're seeing is just pure money games, like basically people building speculation tools that are beyond really creating value towards society and more so just people trading money exchanging hands in these, like money games that are more similar to casino games. There are a few exceptions like your poly markets of the world, which like I am very excited about. But ultimately, like we just really haven't seen the innovation that you'd want to have seen over the last couple of years, especially with folks building through the bear. And I think in a world where you're not seeing new and innovative apps, you want to have a bias towards Bitcoin versus sort of these on-chain products. So here's ETH BTC sitting at 0.047. Before the show, I was just telling Jordi, and maybe this is a bottom signal, like I'm just holding out ETH till we get to like 0.065, 0.07. That would be amazing. Swap to Bitcoin and just sort of relax and enjoy that, because there also are these political, tailwinds. Like Trump talks about Bitcoin. You didn't hear him mention Ethereum once, right? Like if there's going to be a strategic reserve, it will be Bitcoin. It's not going to be Ethereum, presumably, at least not to start. And so like I'm very bullish on these smart contract chains, but I just think we have the opportunity here to basically wait for the development and innovation to happen before rotating from Bitcoin to ETH. So now is definitely not the time to swap, but maybe in the near future.
I don't see like a world where we go to 0.65 and then go back down. I think the only scenario I see is like first we go down and then we go up, because the cycle always starts with like, the next leg is first Bitcoin. That's kind of like where, and then it filters down. So it should probably be more the other way. So if you're waiting for 0.065, it probably goes lower first, and then bounces. But the one hope, of course, has been the ETF. So we can let's bring up Evan's tweet here, and he's been tracking the equivalent between Grayscale, GBTC, and ETH. Apparently, ETH is going out a lot faster. Like people have kind of figured out how to do this now, and the outflows are, like in half the days are kind of like getting through. And we saw that with Bitcoin, the bottom was about 12 days in. It fell from 47 to 40, which was like a 20% drop. And then in ETH, we hit 3,500, and obviously we're getting close to that 20%, not too far out. So I don't know if these outflows ending is going to potentially create the same fractal where we kind of bottom out and then rip. Obviously, we ripped from 40 back to 70 on the Bitcoin side. So there's a little bit of hopium still.
Yeah, it really would be, super obvious in hindsight if it is that way. And if you can share my screen, Justin, I guess this can kind of pivot to, the builder side and innovation and whatnot. But it feels like, this is Qiao's tweet. I do agree. It seems like, we have AI and Deepin and SocialFi just, getting super hyped. And now everyone thinks gaming and NFT is dead. DeFi, maybe we're approaching a slope of enlightenment. And, I'm in the arena. I bought some mid-curve DeFi tokens recently. And hopefully, oh God. Oh man, Brad, our editor or our producer always has that. He's so trigger happy with that mid-curve meme. But what do you guys think about this? Do you think that there really is no innovation, or do we think that, most of the innovation that could have happened has already happened? And we're more so just waiting for more capital to flow in, and for players like, I guess, Uniswap, Aave, Lido, like the older OG DeFi to really just start outperforming, hopefully, in the next couple of months.
Well, I have to say, I don't think all of the innovation I don't think the juice has been fully squeezed out. I think there's so many more important and impressive products that can be built and will be built in the future, and use cases we haven't thought of. I do think it takes time, especially when the incentives are so misaligned. Like, I don't think if you want to make a lot of money and succeed and bring value to your investors, right? Like, you can do that by building like a 0 to 1 technology and innovation, or you can do like the tried and true money game application that, you know, exists in our space and are very popular and see a lot of short-term hype, right? So I think the incentives are just misaligned, but I think over time we will see like amazing new applications being built.
Yeah.
Just on the incentive part, I want to share something I observed recently. That Binance has definitely slowed down listing, and I noticed both by observing the number of new listings, but also talking to their team. And it seems to me that basically they're slowing down the listings because the new listings have been performing very poorly, right? Like people dump their airdrop immediately, and so they're slowing this down. And intentionally or not, I think it's actually good for the industry, because previously the incentives are so misaligned because the founders are not in the space to build good products. Their primary incentive is to get listed on Binance. And so if this continues, I think it's actually a good thing, intentional or not, for the industry.
We talked about this last week, how, you know, there's two products. There's the building product with the code that you're building, and then there's the token as a concept, as a buying something that you're selling. And you're completely right that one of the hacks was like not really focusing on the first kind of product and just going like fully for the second kind, and that's how you make all the quick money. You know, Binance, I think, has been around a long time, and they have realized what game they're in. They realize that like they're a casino, and when you're a casino, you don't want the liquidity, like the dollars, the actual like stable coins, which are like the lifeblood of it. You don't want those to exit. And what you have with like launches that go down only is like your retail users are coming in with dollars, they're buying coins, and then when they sell them, they have less dollars. And, you know, the projects have cashed out the money to have runway and you know, buy houses usually in the Australian coast usually.
You know, there's certainly these poor incentives, but I will say the one silver lining to all of this is there are two products here that founders build. They build their token and the actual product. So it's almost like you get two chances at getting product market fit. Like you can completely fail on the app, but your token has product market fit. And that is an outcome that's successful for investors and the founders. And then you can also have the reverse. So you have two outs. And I think that actually means that we're going to continue to see a lot of investment and capital pour into our space, because you don't just need to be acquired. You don't need to succeed enough to get an IPO. And you really don't, you might not need product market fit. You might get lucky and have a token that sort of becomes like mimetic in nature, like an XRP, a Cardano, something like that, and have token market fit. And so I think in the short term, it's bad, but in the long term, it means like we are going to continue to have a ton of investment in our space, which is ultimately good.
Yeah, you're right. If you have a product market fit and not a token market fit, so I've talked about Lido in the past, and that's probably like the glaring example where you have the chart where like no one's ever made money on it, but like the market cap keeps going up. So someone's done very well. And like there's, you know, infinite billions staked in it. So I think it's the biggest TVL product in all of crypto, right? So successful from every like traditional standpoint, same as Arbitrum, not as glaring, but similar type of thing. Versus like, you know, token holders have never really been able to make returns on it.
I mean, Uniswap, I think, is like the greatest example of this ever, right? Like it is by far the most successful product in our space from an on-chain perspective. In my opinion, it's the most innovative, the most revolutionary, has unlocked so many use cases. And it's not as though the token is completely worthless. It's trading at almost 7 billion FTV, 5 billion circulating, but like it's certainly struggled, right? But the application, like the metrics just keep on improving every month. Uniswap as a DEX really does phenomenally and is like continuing to take market share away from sexes. And I think UniV4 will, you know, continue that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue that, you know, I mean, Uniswap, the product has product market fit and the token kind of sucks, but, you know, right now they're getting sued by the SEC, right? And, you know, both Uni and Lido are getting sued. And I think a lot of people think that these teams aren't really working on their projects. But you know, after talking to some DAO delegates, they are shipping, they are working. It's just that they can't really do anything right now. So, you know, once Uni and Lido beat the SEC, which I think is my base case, you can argue that like maybe that's when they're going to start talking about value accrual. fee switch and whatnot.
Shouldn't that be?
I saw Taiki was like talking about Aave on his channel. He's like, Aave's gonna 10x, and like
That's some clickbait shit, you know.
it's a clickbait shit, but like
Clickbait shit.
Are you not worried of like repeating the kind of like style of thesis of?
And can I ask an add-on question to that, Taiki, just before you answer? Okay, Trump winning is a coin toss right now. Let's just call it 50-50. And maybe Uniswap winning and Aave, if they have a case winning, is a 50% chance. So cumulatively, there's like a 75% chance these DeFi projects have a positive outcome. Shouldn't that be getting priced in right now? And does it say anything about the tokens if it's not being priced in?
Yeah. So okay. So the first question was, am I tired of, or like, I guess like, I feel like people remember me for like the bad calls, but I've made some decent calls in the past. Like I bought Maker like the day of the buyback proposal at 1,000, and like it went to like 4K. And I'm just making a similar play where, okay, Aave has a buyback proposal, let me just buy and then outperform me. That's kind of like my mindset. And I guess, what is this? Oh God, I'm not gonna do that. But with Lido and Uni, I'm not gonna buy Lido and Uni right now. I'm just more thinking, hey, like if I buy Lido at like $1, I feel like that risk reward is pretty favorable, and I'm okay taking on that risk. And if I am right with Maker and Aave, and they start performing, I feel like that also brings more attention back to the DeFi sector. And we were talking about this earlier. I think a lot of people are getting jaded, and they want to believe in something. So they want to believe in something, and I'm happy to believe in DeFi. When no one else believes in DeFi.
I'll give you the arguments for both sides for DeFi.
Maybe could you tackle the pricing in question as well? I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
If you go to DeFi Llama, there's actually a handful of DeFi tokens that are objectively fairly to undervalued. Like if you look at their PS ratio or PF ratio, they're actually really cheap. It's below 20. Like if you think of DeFi as a growth sector, PS or PF ratio of below 20 is actually really, really cheap. That's the argument. And also, the market has been pretty jaded towards DeFi for the last 3 years. So that's the argument for DeFi. Now, the argument against DeFi is that for these dinosaur tokens to go up, you actually need a lot of dinosaur market participants. And by that, I mean institutional market participants, institutional funds, liquid funds, like professional ones, not the degens, because they're the ones who, by their mandate, can and should buy these high quality undervalued tokens. And I don't see a lot of those in the market right now. So that's the argument against it. There's not enough flow from what I've seen to buy DeFi tokens.
Yeah, and all the money is going to VC and not enough to liquid funds. And I guess to address your pricing in question, I don't think these things can be priced in because there's so much uncertainty. And it's not like these tokens are like stocks where it gives you like the rights to, like it doesn't have like the same property rights. So it's more so like degens like me that's trying to extrapolate, these boomer TradFi like mid-curve metrics. And like I'm not saying like Aave is gonna 10x. Like I don't know if I mean, it could obviously, but I feel like these things can only start appreciating once the market understands that, hey, there's buybacks coming, there's value accrual coming. I think it has to be like super obvious for the markets to be like, okay, like maybe it's worth like punting here instead of like the majors.
Well, at least philosophically, you have somebody on your side. We have Spreek here had an interesting tweet saying that DeFi is at least made everyone do useful things on chain compared to the pre-2021 class where all the people were doing on chain was just sending the money between centralized exchanges. Now we actually have some activity that makes sense and it's going on. And he's saying that a lot of the meme coin shoulders that are nihilistic and just punting on like air vapor are pointing to DeFi summer and pointing to this period as being equivalent to what they're doing. And it's all the same. It was just all Ponzi's, doesn't matter. And he's making a point that I guess is more in favor of DeFi as being a little bit more meaningful.
Qiao, you're a large supporter of Pump.Fund, correct? Investor and advisor, is that correct?
Yeah, we incubated Pump.Fund.
Incubated, yeah. obviously it's been a huge success. Clearly people love it. Clearly it has product market fit. Do you think there's any negative externalities to that product?
What would be an example?
An example would be this nihilism that Jordi mentioned, right? Like this push and pull we have in our industry of no one's building anything aside from meme coins, pumpy, scammy stuff versus like building apps. Like, does this move the attention considerably enough away from what matters in this space to the fun stuff or the memes?
I think it does move away the attention from stuff that quote unquote has positive externality. But at the end of the day, nihilism is a luxury belief. Like the fact that people are talking about financial nihilism is a luxury belief. Like the people who are talking about this are the ones who are wealthy enough. If you talk to the average market participant or the average user of crypto, the main thing for them is to make money.
But they're not, most people are losing money on pump.fun, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that is a negative externality, but the same thing can be said of all retail participants in all markets.
Yes, that's true.
The average retail does lose money.
But
I agree.
I mean, it's a spectrum though, like, right? Like the average person can buy and hold the S&P 500 or probably even like a Bitcoin or an ETH or maybe even Solana. But like the average person does not have really a chance with pump.fun, right? It's basically a more of a lottery ticket as opposed to like, like a considerably strong asset class.
Like lottery tickets has product market fit too, and I think the point of blockchains is that anyone can do whatever they want. And
totally.
If people lose money, then people are going to stop punting on memes at some point. And I think Qiao had that. You had like that, data on alliance projects, and I think there was like an uptick in projects building like meme related products. Maybe we can pivot the conversation to I guess like what builders are focusing on. So Qiao, if you can like just briefly talk about, once you share your screen, what's going on here, and I guess the general trends that you see, that'd be great.
I haven't published this data, but the context is we receive 3,000 approximately startup applications to our accelerator per year. So we can analyze the mentions of various crypto buzzwords from those applications. And so we can look at the trend over time and see if, basically see the rise and fall of crypto buzzwords, right? The first one I can show is related to meme coins. Let's look at 2E here. So these are all consumer product related buzzwords. And I mean, meme coin is actually not a new thing. It has been up only since H1 2021, right? It's been the last 3.5 years. Okay, the funny one is actually metaverse, which is metaverse.
I don't even remember the last time I heard somebody use that phrase.
You just launched an NFT, Jordi. What are you talking about?
Well, actually, both NFTs and metaverse have been down since late 2022.
Yeah.
But
so this is not what you're investing in. These are just the applications you're seeing. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing investors? Like, are the builders following what the investors are investing in, or reverse?
There's a little bit of self-reinforcing effect. Like there's a little bit of both ways. Like when build, like a lot of average builders, when they see investors make investments into invest like tens of $millions into a high-profile project, they will pivot into that direction because they know that other investors who haven't invested, who don't have allocation in that project, are FOMOing into the same sector. So there's more demand from investors in that sector, which draws the average builders, not the best builders, right? I mean, like the same can be said on both sides. The average builders and the average investors all FOMO into what the other side is getting into, if that makes sense. But the best investors and the best founders are both very contrarian.
Yeah, the best founders will define the new category, and the best investor will not just kind of piggyback off of what everybody else is doing.
Qiao, Can I just ask before we pivot? What Qiao, what is that for you? What's the sector you guys are most excited about for your accelerator?
Right at the moment, it's three things. It's stablecoins, so a lot of payment apps. These are growing extremely fast in emerging markets, basically outside of the US and Europe. And like crypto Twitter doesn't really appreciate these things because crypto Twitter is highly US centric. But these things are really taking off in the entire world. The second one is speculative social apps. So Pump would be part of that. Fantasy is another example, but I think we're going to see many variations, many very interesting consumer apps that are tailored towards the young generation, the Gen Z, maybe Gen Alpha even. They're the ones who are embracing speculation. Like the boomers on Twitter, they hate speculation. They fucking hate it. And if you really think about it, like the first, like these two categories are at the polar extremes of each other. There's stablecoins, which is extremely boring to most people on Twitter, and then there's speculation, which is like the full-on degen extreme of the spectrum. But anyway, so these are the two categories, and the third one is DePIN. But DePIN is actually also part of is also speculation driven, right? Like without speculative tokens, people are not going to install the physical networks. I think DePIN is really interesting. It's still mostly unproven. Like even with Helium, I think they have 100,000 users, but I wouldn't necessarily call it undeniable product market fit. But the very idea behind it makes sense. You use speculation to incentivize people to install physical networks, and we have proven the supply side. Like people have installed those networks on the supply side. So what is yet to be proven is the demand side. Do people actually want to use like Helium Mobile, for example? So these are the three areas that we're interested in.
I'm like super bullish consumer DePIN. So I'm like one of the largest farmers of Blackbird, like Eat to Earn in New York. And it's like using token incentives to drive humans to take decisions in real life. Like, like make me go to a restaurant using token incentives. I feel like that's actually pretty powerful. And I guess that kind of ties into speculation, social apps, and I guess payments too, because you can pay through Blackbird and whatnot. The user experience is kind of janky, not gonna lie, but I feel like there's so much investment into infra that we need consumer apps to really drive the industry forward.
Yeah, I met someone at Amex last night at a crypto party who's leading the strategy team and very interested in crypto, but hard to get Amex excited about crypto and crypto settlement and payments, etc. But Amex bought Rezi, and the founder of Rezi is the person that created Blackbird, and Amex invested in Blackbird, and they're very excited about what's going on there. They think it's super cool too. So I think it's very nice to see these like real use cases getting everyone excited, not just us crypto people.
Qiao, we talked a little bit about tech, and you said you go through all the AI companies and you're following the AI sector, but you mentioned DePIN, but not like more like Web3 AI, crypto AI. Is that, you think, early or just never going to make sense, or how are you seeing it?
Decentralized GPUs, for example, you can consider that as part of DePIN. But I think most people got the thesis completely wrong. I think the mainstream thesis behind decentralized GPUs is that they can provide cheaper services, cheaper products by leveraging latent hardware that's sitting in your laptop or whatever that was used for Ethereum mining and that's now latent. That's the theory behind it. But the actuality is using latent hardware doesn't actually lower cost. What lowers cost is economy of scale, is the centralized cloud services. It's AWS, it's Azure, it's Google Cloud. And it's NVIDIA that ships new generations of GPUs every half a year. Like every half a year, the GPUs that are latent in your laptop, for example, gets outdated. It's not going to be performant enough for like the newest generation of AI inferences. So I'm deeply skeptical of the thesis that decentralized GPUs provide cheaper services. Now, there is a thesis for decentralized GPUs, which is censorship resistance and privacy. So in that context, decentralized networks of GPUs do make sense because when you use ChatGPT or Google or whatever, Gemini, right? Like you send your own personal information to a centralized provider, and maybe as an individual you don't care, but if you're a company, if you're a corporate user, I think you do care about your privacy. You don't want to leak a lot of your sensitive information to a centralized provider. That's one. And two is, I'm sure you all have used all these various chatbots, and I'm sure you have noticed that they have a political bias, right? And they sometimes censor your question, like they don't want to answer your questions if the question you're asking does not fit their political bias, and vice versa. So I think
that's not on the hardware level. That's like the actual model that you're running. That's kind of a different.
That's the model that you're running. But if you really wanted to use, let's say, open source models that are unbiased, there's two ways to do that. One is you run it on your local machine, which today may or may not be performing enough to run the latest generation of open source AI models. Another way to do that is to send the inference request to a decentralized network of GPUs and run the models there.
I mean, you can potentially, like, obviously, like, Facebook Meta has been releasing their open source versions, which are pretty good, and now you could obviously run that on AWS or wherever. But the key thing that you didn't kind of go down the path of, because I've been talking to the actual people really deep in this, and there is a censorship thesis, but it's not around personal privacy, because there are other solutions for that, like enclaves, different things. But there is a geopolitical thesis, because what's happening with the US is that they have gone around the world and basically tried to tell people that they're not allowed to give out their GPUs for, Chinese, especially, like, research. There's a lot of stuff happening in the Middle East where they're trying to do a lot of research, and there's a lot of GPUs, and the US generally wants to be the one providing the GPUs and kind of controlling what research is being done and who's getting access. So there is a game there. It's again going back into this, like, geopolitical realm. So let's not get stuck here. One thing I wanted to get into, though, is from the builder side, because you and I are both talking to builders all the time. Justin is a builder. Taiki's farming the builders, poor guy. So he's on the other side here. But there's generally, in a lot of the chats, I would say during the last months, a little bit of like, people have to amp themselves up because they feel like they're hitting a wall of product market fit. And maybe not for the pumped out funds, but maybe even for those, because, a lot of these things, we saw Friendtech, right? Like, they make 50 million, and then it's just sort of, it's hard to keep the momentum going. I've been on the builder side lately with Puff, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So I can experience what founders are feeling sometimes when you have to keep delivering and keep finding how to make people happy, and you always have this token that's, this, like, it's like a grade report. Maybe, Justin, you don't have the report out yet. You don't get a report card every day. But yeah, let's get into this, Qiao. Like,
from my perspective, I don't necessarily think the sentiment has been worse over the last couple of months on the part of founders. I think it's always been it's always been challenging for founders to find product market fit over the last few years. And in fact, I think the sentiment probably improved compared to the few months post FTX. FTX was literally the worst I've ever seen. Like, it was actually worse than the 2018 bear market, which is kind of counterintuitive, because crypto has been de-risked.
Maybe because you're talking to founders, like, very early stage, and I'm talking to the ones that have, like, launched the token in the last few months. Like, any token launched in the last 3 months, just, there's not a lot of buyers of altcoins right now. So maybe that's the difference.
Right. Which is why our general advice is to delay the token launch before finding product market fit, before, like, really compelling product market fit.
And if money gets made beforehand, is that sort of like a way for them to just have a treasury and clean the runway? And do they ever pay, like, is this pumped out fund pay out any dividends to investors before launching a token? Is that ever a thing?
Maybe. I don't.
Okay, let's move on.
I don't know what their plan is, but they're printing so much money that they don't even need to launch a token.
Yeah, I mean, like there's like two examples recently, right? Of like Frentech made so much money, and now, I mean, like they don't care about the token because they don't have a token, and BitClout guy got like sued by the SEC because, I mean, I guess like that's not really because, I mean, I guess he raised like $200 million, and he wasn't really, I mean, I can't speak for him, but they never really shipped anything that of use, so maybe, yeah, like good projects that already make money, they don't have an incentive to drop a token, but bad projects, they don't make money, so they have to drop a token so that their investors and themselves can make money. So maybe there's like some adverse selection there.
It's also worth noting, I mean, 90% plus of startups fail, so like we should expect 90% plus of tokens at least to go to zero, right? There's no barrier from launching your token.
Right.
It's just weird because like in traditional startups, you stop making more profit than costs, and you try to do something, and if you can't, after a while, you just fold up, right? In crypto, usually you still have a lot of years of runway because you raised enough for that upfront. There was a lot of VC money. Maybe you even got a token launch in and you made some money, and you can't really like shut off because there's still holders, and it's like you've already IPO'd in a sense, like the token's out there.
Like just going back to your earlier point about your question about whether or not Pump has any positive or negative externality. Actually, Pump has a positive externality. Just think about it, because now with Pump, people, like most retail traders, are now trading meme coins rather than VC funded coins. And as a result, those VC funded coins, the moment they get listed or going on a DEX, their price action is down only.
Yeah,
and the long-term consequence is that will force founders to delay their token launch as much as possible and really focus on product market fit. Like
and focus on driving value to the token. Like, how can we get you to hold the token? Like, we're going to pass along earnings. Hopefully that's something that is possible in the next SEC regime as well. So I agree with you. That's a great point. I hadn't considered it.
I agree.
Well, I'm definitely tired of the VC game of you invest and then the token launches at 10x, and then you're waiting. Obviously, the price is going down, and then your cliff is like a year, and you're just hoping that the deceleration of the price happens slow enough that you're still in profit at the end. This is not like a really good game for anyone really to play. It should be either much more released and you just get a fair value at the beginning, which can sustain, and you don't have
also,
this.
Retail traders figured out the game this cycle. I don't think the last cycle they understood the importance of supply overhang, but this cycle they do, and they would, you can see in the price action, they exit the market right before the unlock, the first unlock.
Yeah, and in terms of like Pump Fund being like creating positive externalities, you can argue, like Kobe launched Echo, which is like a way to, I guess, democratize angel investing. So like, all the anti-VC pro meme coin narrative has driven, I guess, founders to build better products and like build better platforms, and it takes time to like wash away the excesses, right? So yeah, like I think I think we're generally trending in the right direction, but there's still a lot of stuff that has to be washed, I think.
I do want to mention that there is a lot of innovation, and I know that because I see the projects at their earliest stage. I'm actually more optimistic than I was, let's say, a year or two ago. Like, there's actually a lot of real things happening in the stablecoin space, and it's mind-boggling because almost every startup that I talk to that has a live product in the payment stablecoin space in emerging markets has some form of early signs of product market fit, meaning they have like at least 20% month-over-month growth. People are using stablecoins for two things right now. One is hedging against their local fiat currency, and two, make cross-border payment. And it's really taking the world by storm. You can see that both on chain and anecdotally talking to founders.
How are they innovating on the stablecoin? Like, how is it different than all the existing stablecoins? Like, what?
They're not creating new stablecoins. They're just using USDT on Tron. By the way, Tron is where all the actual adoption is happening. I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but Tron is making more positive impact to the world than like Ethereum.
Yeah. TRX is more deflationary than ETH because like Tron burns their some of their gas. which is
They
like something
burn
that.
fast, they buy more fingers for the leader. I don't know if you guys.
For Justin.
Oh yeah. Mr. Justin Sun. We should get him on the pod sometime.
Yeah, we'll get His Excellency on. Maybe it'll be like an AI version hologram, but
It's pretty amazing. Do you guys think Tron could be is like the next BSC? I mean, the FDV, it's only 10 billion FDV. This thing is just up only. According to CoinGecko, it's basically fully circulating here. It's just so shocking. And to your point, Qiao, you're totally right. I mean, the stablecoin growth we've seen there is absolutely bonkers. It's wild.
It's the RWA chain.
This chart looks amazing.
yeah. We just had Tether announce their earnings. They made 5 billion in H1, 5 billion, and apparently Circle is thinking about IPOing their entire company at 5 billion. So people were snarking that the entire market cap of Circle could be bought out by the one half of Tether.
They need to drop a token instead. I mean, just think about the Circle governance token. They don't even have to sell shares or true ownership of the company. They can launch the token and it would trade much higher than 5 billion.
Yeah. By the way, our editor is reminding me, guys, please like and subscribe. We have no ads, none of that fluff, but that would be nice. But I did mention Puff. So, Puff has been a project that we've talked about in different weeks. And this week we had an NFT drop. NFTs came out in different qualities, I would say. There was like an Ansem looking with hat one, got the shades on the left. We have a combination of traits on the right where it looks like a dungeon kink lord or something. We have Kevin from Pixelmon. This is what Kinky Kevin looks like potentially. But getting into the builder seat, we had an interesting situation. Puff is many things and it's very experimental, and the NFTs were one way to give the community an ID badge to represent their participation. And man, people get really like into the universe, which is amazing to see because people care a lot. But then when you like delay the mint, we ended up having to delay by 50 minutes because there was some permission dev issue, like the smart contract didn't get deployed at the last second, and it took 50 minutes to drop, and then it just like suddenly dropped like 50 minutes later. So everyone's like scrambling to buy these like legendaries, the Escobars. One, it's great to see passion, but two, like, man, people get like really pissed off if they feel something's unfair, something isn't fully congruent. And it doesn't surprise me too much. Like the one thought I've always had about successful crypto and a successful distribution is that the community has to feel it's fair. Like Bitcoin, we kind of accept that people have put in work. There's a proof of like energy expenditure, and that's why this guy has 100,000 Bitcoins because he's been spending energy for like 10 years to support the network. And it's an undervalued but very important part of the community, I think. Have you ever thought about this fairness category, Qiao?
Fairness category.
Yeah, fairness in terms of like the community building side. Like if you want to build a community, they have to feel like there is a fair distribution, things are happening in a fair way. Sometimes it goes to a DAO so that you create this illusion of DAO voting, and the DAO voted for something, and this is why it's happening.
I mean, I guess like for people to feel like it's fair, like the airdrop has to be worth. I mean, I'm assuming there's an airdrop. It has to. I feel like the standard is like 10%, right, or 8 to 10%, but maybe upping it to like 15, 20, 25.
No,
right?
I think like fairness is how much did somebody else get? Like we look at Darknet or like maybe even like ZK Sync, but especially Starknet, you had people say like, look, I've done all this stuff, I got 0, and then somebody did a GitHub contribution and got like 50K. That's not fair. And that creates like a resentment towards the project where if they did things in a way that socially the community considered to be fair, I'm not saying there's product market fit necessarily, but there's some improvement of sentiment at least.
Yeah, it's hard because like airdrop farmers are getting so sophisticated that it's so easy to game, like all these things. I feel like this is what Justin talked about some time ago. It's like it's impossible to make everyone happy. So the only way to make people happy is for the token to go up, which is easier said than done. So I think it's not even like the perception of fairness. It's all about like, does it go up? Can you launch low enough where it goes higher?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I don't know how much you go into these discords of your projects, Qiao. Like I went into the Puff Discord, around this period quite a lot lately. And if there's a day where just like a single whale sells like 500,000, they act as if this is clearly signed that the entire market's going to zero and the judgment has been passed. And if the opposite happens, like the sentiment just drastically shifts. It's insane.
Yeah, and there's a comment by Andre. Sorry to interrupt, Qiao, but the Layer Zero did good because Brian was posting about everything he's doing, so people empathize with that. Okay, like Brian is trying to make it fair. He's trying to detect all these civil wallets. So like for me, like I didn't get that much zero tokens, but it felt like fair. It felt fair to me. So I think the founders also have to demonstrate that like they're working on something instead of like just dropping tokens and complaining about it on Twitter and calling us e-beggars, right?
That's a great point, actually. And I think it ties into fairness as part of a brand. And if you're going to build a brand, it means the community has to actually have emotional reactions to what you're doing, being happy, being upset, but they have to care. You have to get them to care. And if they feel something's unfair, they'll care in a bad way. If they feel something's fair, it's good to continue. Layer Zero is a good example. I love that comment, actually, that the amount of work he put in, like sweat, it was like proof of work as a Bitcoin miner does, but he put it with sweat. He was just like trying to figure out every little Sybiler and tell his community that he's trying to protect them from Sybil attacks.
Was Brian the one that was telling us though that like a lot of these industrial airdrop farmers will like actually just deploy Twitter bots and get this like army of bots complaining basically to pressure the project to like airdrop to their segment? And they're like, there's also this incentive for people to complain whether it's justified or not, right? Because like the more you complain, the more noise is made, the more likely the tokenomics will be revised or something will be done to support your cause. And so I think that also like hurts the discourse as well. Like it's very hard to tell, no one that loves the project is going to say how fair it is, right? People react much more strongly to negative emotions and want to post about that. And so I also think like it's a vocal minority that is like broadcasting this perception of unfairness. I think for the most part, most people in our space sort of know that like you're accountable for your actions that you take on chain.
Don't you guys feel that the whole airdrop meta, especially the industrial airdrop meta, is coming to an end, especially given that Binance is listing new products less and less?
I think until we get clarity from the SEC, it'll still be here because it's the way to decentralize in your project and also like get tokens in retail so you can eventually sell. But I think when we have clarity from the SEC, I think the airdrop meta will be the first thing to fall.
Yeah, I mean, points will continue. I think what you meant was like, I think the points meta will only continue because the founders have incentives to just do points and get like billions of TVL. But I guess there's going to be less incentives to, I guess, run industrial farms because the expected returns go down. So maybe, the metrics will look more reasonable going forward.
Right.
I will just finish off, we'll revisit this, I'm sure, in future episodes, but I am starting to see quite clearly that if you're building a community, this is like a key concept and also has to like be aligned with something. I think some of the few NFT collections that have succeeded, and we saw the chart going down on NFTs, but if you look at the few examples, I think Pudgies, and I would put Pudgies in the category of like lawful good, like we're making toys for kids and they're all cute and like there's just like this association that people make with it and the brand is so strong. And then you go to like the Retardios, the Mog crew, which is also doing great, and I would put them into the more degen free speech as category, right? And then, you know, maybe some of the Solana ones, we'll see which ones hold up. I think WIF initially had some nihilistic, you know, part into it, which made it very popular. Like, it's just a dog with a hat. And I think at some point the methamphetamine guy on stage maybe blurred that image, but I think initially it was a great brand. Like this like purity, had a purity to it. And yeah, I guess like that's the conclusion. And, you know, trying to build now like a project like Puff and give it this extra value where it's not just what's in the treasury and what's the value of the airdrop and whatever. You want this like extra intangible on top. I think you have to align a cause. And I think the cause for Puff specifically is for like the people in the middle who are neither like too degen or like too like boring and like lawful and nice, but they have like a spice of both. And I think that's the community that can potentially form. And we'll see in the future if my thesis is correct, but it feels like this is the way to categorize it.
So when is the final Puff decision happening? It's soon, right?
Yeah. So the first thing we're doing, as I mentioned, like we had a little bit of a delayed mint, and like there were some issues we had to resolve. So we're doing a second mint. We're doing a top up mint. So on Monday there'll be one more chance to mint NFTs, and potentially get like a legendary one instead of a kinky Kevin. So we'll see. And then we have, there's like a chapter 6 drop. I'm quite proud of the things we've done. You know, I said from the beginning it's experimental, and when I look back on the project, we'll do like a review at the end. But between doing prediction markets and doing like wallet health checks, where you're sort of like grading a wallet for being aligned with a community, a lot of like novel stuff kind of came in. I think the decentralized game theory game where you have to kind of predict the bucket was also quite interesting. So a lot of stuff that might get copied in the future. And in terms of alpha, we'll kind of leave it for future episodes.
Should we do some
Is it pasta time? Yeah.
Pasta
favorite
time.
part of the show.
All right. Who wants to go first?
I'll kick us off. I got mine pulled up and ready to go.
All right.
So for the content creators out there, this was super relatable, and I woke up to Taiki tweeting this, and it put a huge smile on my face because I think we've all been there. So let's go ahead and pull the tweet up. But Taiki said, "Bro, why are my YouTube comments like this?" And so we talked a little bit about Taiki's Aave thesis and like making, you know, Taiki's famous for like a 20-part series on Canto and why Canto like could 10x, right, or 5x or perform well. And it seems like a series is coming for Aave now, which is exciting, but the commenters think this is a counter signal. So Taiki, please, not when I'm long. 28 likes. Taiki continues to mid-curve. Thanks, Taiki. Shorting Aave now. Just opened a short on Aave. Thanks for the free money. We are farming Taiki. And it is very relatable. You know, no matter what you do, you can't please the audience, or you can't please all the audience. The critics out there are tough, Taiki. So are you coping? It's okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. Like, I feel like most of these people are just trolling because I've kind of built this mid-curve persona. But I mean, I don't know. I personally like, with content, I always like just mess around. I experiment with different things and figure out what sticks. So yeah, I guess like we had the 10-part series because I thought, hey, let me try to believe in something. Didn't work. Got trolled for it. So no, I'm not gonna do like, you know, multi-part series anymore. I'm just gonna drop a thesis and like just move on. And people can figure out, you know, everyone's adults, right? So people can figure out what they want to do with it. But I know I'm just trying to bring DeFi back. Bring sexy back. Yeah.
But so your pasta, Justin, is Taiki's tweet? Okay.
Taiki's tweet, yeah, a little incestual, but
do you have a Justin pasta? Could you like return the favor?
Well, Justin's entire Twitter account is a pasta, but I have a different pasta. If you can pull it up, because this you know, the markets are down, but you have to learn from the past, right? In the early days of FedEx, the founder had to go to great lengths to keep the company afloat. So one time when a crucial business loan was denied, he took the company's last 5K to Vegas, won 27K gambling on blackjack to cover the fuel bill. It kept FedEx alive for one more week, and now they're one of the most successful companies. So, times are tough out there, but just know that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm going to continue to hold on to my cooked ETH bags.
This is pretty
Trying to
weak
stay
of
alive.
pasta too, to be honest.
Man.
I don't think we heard it. Wait, Jordi, I feel like you didn't like my pasta. Can I get a second shot?
Yeah, at the end, but
What?
What the heck?
Yeah, man.
like
Heike, this pasta's terrible. I'm sorry.
Are you serious?
well,
I guess
it reminds me
hoping,
of
I guess.
you guys saw what happened with Kujira this week, where they announced that they did exactly this. They sort of like took their 5K was probably 5 million, and they didn't take it to Vegas, but they took it to the leverage streets. I don't know exactly what they're talking about. Maybe we can find this tweet on their official account, but they say that they took leverage. They took leverage and lost money from the treasury, which was, I guess, not something that they were supposed to be doing. So they, here's a link. They used operational funds, I guess, to,
Here we go. I've got it pulled up.
Yeah, we thought the best use of ops funds would be to leverage and deploy across the ecosystem. I mean, deploy across the ecosystem, maybe. Why use the word, like, why leverage? I don't understand why leverage. So they tried to do what Taiki just showed, but it didn't work.
It didn't work. Oh no.
Work.
I think there's like $2 million of bad debt in Kujira's ecosystem, and they have to try to raise money now. But I'm not sure about that right now.
Yeah, they're saying they have 14 million tokens, and they're gonna try to give them out to different maturities and different lockup periods, and see if people will fill up to avoid more liquidations. I'm not quite sure what's happening, but I guess it doesn't always work out, Taiki. So your pasta maybe is not going to win this week.
Yeah, there's a survivorship bias. It's like for every FedEx, there's like 100 Kujiras.
Qiao, you have a pasta?
I have a pasta, but I don't really like it. I want to tell a story that I experienced last week when I was in Nashville.
Okay.
Story hour pasta.
Yeah, story one. So everyone was expecting the special guest to be Elon, right? And like even Trump thought Elon was coming, and like he was talking about like electrical vehicles for like the first 15 minutes more than Bitcoin. So everyone thought he was coming, and a friend of mine actually learned about the rumor like before anyone else because he was close to one of the organizers of the event. So he 100x leverage longed Dogecoin. He got liquidated.
Insider trading gone wrong.
I saw Dogecoin like it go from like 13 to 13.8, but I guess it was like quite a sharp reversion after probably.
That was him. He longed in size.
Oh, okay. That was him. Okay.
Very PvP. It was Justin. Weren't you tracking his like plane or something?
Yeah, we're in actually a chat together, Taiki, the Hedgers chat, shout out. And someone was tracking Trump's jet, and I guess he like buzzed to Nashville, but just kept going. And so like there was some expectation, or excuse me, Elon, with their expectations he was coming in, but he just passed right over, unfortunately. And and then we got Loomis instead.
Yes. All right. Well, for my pasta, we talked at the beginning of the show how, the Marshalls have been moving $2 billion to Coinbase for custody and potential selling, treasury management, whatever, for the Marshalls. And people were commenting on this transaction that happened on chain. Obviously, immediately gets flagged that there's 2 billion moving on chain. And there was one thesis here we can bring up as to what was going on. U.S. government moves 2 billion worth of Bitcoin, and the base carbon says, probably moving to a fresh wallet to buy ordinals.
Oh, man. It was such a funny juxtaposition where Trump committed to not selling the seized Bitcoin, and then like 2 days later, all of this Bitcoin immediately moved, like a spite move from the Biden-Harris team.
Yeah, I do feel like there's a chance.
Hey, I'm actually wearing an ordinal shirt today from Nashville.
Oh,
cool. Are you an ordinal
What's this-
holder? Or?
I used to be.
He used to be.
Is that
He's
meta
sold.
I mean, it's pretty quiet, right? Like the fees have come down a lot now, and I hear
Yeah,
like minor.
basically peaked at the halving. The halving was the pickle top for ordinals.
Wait,
It's
I
like-
know Brad put up a pasta poll so everyone can vote there, but I had an emergency last minute hot swap pasta I wanted to engage in to sort of rig the polls in my favor. Let me pull it up real quick. And it's very on point with Puff. So Fusilla here tweeted directly at me. I forgot about this like a week ago. Very undiscovered tweet. Hola, Justin. Sorry for the spam again, but it is useless to deny it. This is you, the good Puff. So, Jordi, I want to thank you for making a puff in my name, the good Puff here. We've got the same glasses, the same smile, same eyes, same hands. Everything's the same. Is there any chance I can get my hand on this one? I have like a not as good Puff, let's say.
I don't know who minted this one. There's a secondary market, so hopefully it shows up on Element. If it shows up, I'll buy it for you. Okay, how's that?
Thank you. So whoever has this listed for some small amount, just a few mantle, and we can scoop it on the cheap.
The floor is actually like pretty high right now because all the tokens get streamed, the cooked governance token. So every NFT will get like a decent chunk of NFTs. It's similar to what Mad Lads did with Wormhole. So we're using the same kind of mechanic. I think it's a great one. It really kind of aligns communities for a longer period. So Hugo says he's going to list it for 10 ETH. So I don't know. You might have to come down on price, Hugo. It's a bit too much.
It looks like we've got 24 voters right now at the poll, so make sure to cast your vote and then like and subscribe if you haven't yet already. The votes are coming in. It looks like
let's give it a second. Meanwhile, like and subscribe once again.
Smash that like button.
Yeah,
as Robert Leshner put it.
Yeah. People speaking of Leshner, people seem to like the Charles Hoskinson episode. He's a cool guy. He was pretty chill about the pastas. You're not ugly, or you're poor.
I think we should publicly set, like, as we're in season 2 now, who's our goal for the dream guest for season 2?
Because we got season 1. We got the Hodge.
Yeah.
People saying I did him dirty in the comments are like, you did him dirty with the Hodgkinson, but I think it's not it's fair dues.
You get Justin Sun. CZ after he gets out of jail. That'll be good.
Yeah, I would love to be the first live CZ interview. That would be awesome if we could get that one.
Maybe you'll be jacked. What if he's like super buff?
Yeah, I see comments here. SBF would be great. I would fly to prison to interview him if that was a possibility.
Yeah, that'd be good. Or interesting, at least.
Do Kwon, great one as well.
You just want a prison.
I want the bad guys.
People from prison.
All right, we're gonna call it here because I see I'm winning. So we gotta call it. It's over. Stop the count. Stop the count. It's over.
Let me pull up the results here. 1 second.
Trabuco is gonna. He's MIA now.
Yeah, and people are saying Kobe. Obviously, I've reached out to Kobe, and I think he would be fantastic. But he is not doing any podcasts, at least for the time being. Hopefully, he'll return.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it was close for everybody else, but it's been a while. So I'm happy to get one.
I'm surprised I got 20%. Maybe the Kujira stuff helped me.
There's always some Taiki stuns around.
Yeah, I mean, 68% of the population is, in my favor, the mid curve. So
people are saying I went Nicolas Maduro on the votes. I did not go. I don't have like.
Who did you vote for, Jordi?
I can't. I only voted once. Okay, that's fair.
The Cellini team is turbo refreshing YouTube.
Yeah, the civil farmers.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for another good live episode. Qiao, thank you for joining us. Always very informative. And we'll see everybody next week. Take care.